Have you ever wondered why some people seem to walk through life almost completely alone? No close circle, no loyal companions, no one calling just to ask how they're doing. Most people assume it's because they're unlucky, shy, or simply difficult to like. But the truth is far more unsettling. Friendship is not built on chance. It is shaped by psychology, perception, and the invisible signals we send every single day. The world responds to your character long before it responds to your words, and often the very qualities that make a person intelligent, independent, or ambitious can also push others away without them ever realizing it. Power has always come at a price. Throughout history, those who understood human nature often found themselves isolated because they saw what others refused to see. At the same time, countless people unknowingly sabotaged every relationship they had by repeating behaviors that slowly destroyed trust, respect, and emotional connection. In this speech, we will uncover the 5 personality traits that are commonly found in people who struggle to build lasting friendships. Some of these traits may surprise you. Others may challenge everything you've believed about yourself and the people around you. This is not about judging anyone. It's about understanding the hidden laws of human nature that quietly shape every relationship in your life. If you recognize even one of these traits within yourself, don't look away. Awareness is the first step toward transformation, because once you understand why people keep their distance, you gain the power to change the way the world responds to you. Stay until the end, because the 5th trait is the one most people never notice, and it may be the silent reason why genuine friendships never seem to last. There is a silent barrier that separates some people from meaningful friendships, and most never realize they are carrying it. It cannot be seen, but it can be felt. It is the invisible wall of emotional distance. A person may be kind, intelligent, hardworking, and even polite, yet people rarely feel close to them. The reason is simple. Human beings are drawn not only to confidence or success, but also to emotional connection. When someone consistently keeps their feelings hidden, avoids meaningful conversations, and refuses to let others see their true thoughts, they unintentionally create distance. Others may respect them, but respect alone does not create friendship. Trust is built through openness, shared experiences, and emotional honesty. Many people believe that showing emotions is a weakness. They grow up believing they must appear strong at all times, never reveal pain, never admit fear, and never ask for support. They wear a mask so convincing that even those closest to them cannot tell what they are thinking. At first, this seems like power. It feels safe because no one can hurt what they cannot reach. But this protection comes with a hidden cost. If no one can reach your emotions, no one can truly know you either. People naturally seek those who make them feel comfortable. When every conversation remains on the surface, when every personal question is answered with a joke or a short response, others begin to feel that they are being kept at a distance. They may stop trying to connect because they sense an invisible boundary that they are not allowed to cross. Over time, invitations become less frequent, conversations become shorter, and relationships slowly fade without any argument or dramatic ending. This emotional distance often develops from past disappointments. Someone who has been betrayed, rejected, or abandoned may decide that keeping everyone at arm's length is the safest strategy. Instead of risking another painful experience, they build emotional walls that seem impossible to climb. The tragedy is that these walls are just as effective at keeping out loyal friends as they are at keeping out harmful people. Protection slowly transforms into isolation. Human nature works through reciprocity. When one person shares something meaningful, the other person usually feels encouraged to do the same. This exchange creates trust. It signals that both individuals are willing to be seen without pretending to be perfect. But when one side never reveals anything personal, the balance disappears. The relationship begins to feel one-sided, formal, or emotionally empty. Even if no conflict exists, closeness never develops. Many lonely people mistakenly believe that friendships should happen automatically. They think that if others truly cared, they would continue making the effort regardless of the emotional distance. Reality is different. Most people interpret emotional coldness as disinterest. They assume their company is not wanted, so they quietly step away. They are not rejecting the person, they are responding to the signals they receive. There is also a difference between privacy and emotional unavailability. Privacy is healthy because everyone deserves personal boundaries. Emotional unavailability, however, prevents genuine connection. It means never expressing appreciation, never admitting mistakes, never discussing hopes or fears, and rarely showing gratitude or affection. Relationships cannot grow in an environment where emotions are permanently locked away. Some individuals mistake independence for emotional isolation. They believe that handling everything alone proves strength. While self-reliance is valuable, refusing every opportunity for emotional connection creates loneliness that cannot be solved by achievement, money, or status. People remember how someone made them feel far more than they remember what that person accomplished. A successful life without meaningful relationships often feels surprisingly empty because human beings are naturally wired to seek belonging. History repeatedly shows that the strongest leaders, thinkers, and influential individuals understood the importance of trust. They recognized that influence is impossible without connection, and connection requires people to feel emotionally safe. A person who never reveals even a small part of themselves often appears mysterious at first, but mystery without warmth eventually becomes distance. The silence grows louder, conversations become mechanical, familiar faces become strangers, and opportunities for lasting friendship disappear one quiet interaction at a time. One of the fastest ways to lose potential friends is the constant need to control every relationship. Many people never recognize this trait because it often disguises itself as confidence, intelligence, or high standards. They believe they are simply protecting themselves from disappointment, but the people around them experience something very different. Instead of feeling respected, they feel managed. Instead of feeling trusted, they feel judged. Friendship is built on freedom, not control. The moment one person tries to dominate every interaction, the relationship begins to weaken. The desire for control usually comes from fear rather than strength. People who have been betrayed, manipulated, or ignored in the past often decide they will never allow themselves to be vulnerable again. They become determined to predict every outcome, influence every conversation, and keep every relationship on their own terms. They choose where to meet, what to discuss, how often to communicate, and even how others should behave. At first, these habits seem harmless, but over time they create invisible pressure that people naturally resist. Human beings value autonomy. Everyone wants to feel that their choices are respected. When someone constantly gives advice that was never requested, corrects every opinion, or insists that their way is always the best way, others slowly begin to withdraw. They may not argue or complain. Instead, they become quieter, respond less often, and eventually stop investing in the friendship. They are not escaping honesty or intelligence. They are escaping the feeling of being controlled. Pride often strengthens this behavior. A person who cannot admit mistakes or accept criticism unintentionally creates emotional distance. Every disagreement becomes a competition instead of a conversation. Every discussion becomes an opportunity to prove superiority rather than deepen understanding. Friends are not looking for someone who wins every argument. They are looking for someone who listens, understands, and respects different perspectives. When pride replaces curiosity, meaningful connection becomes almost impossible. Distrust also plays a powerful role. Some people assume everyone has hidden motives. They question every compliment, doubt every act of kindness, and expect betrayal before trust has even been given a chance to grow. This constant suspicion changes the atmosphere of every interaction. Even sincere people begin to feel uncomfortable because they sense they are being tested instead of accepted. Trust cannot develop in an environment where every action is treated like evidence in a trial. Another sign of controlling behavior is the inability to let others be themselves. Every friend has different habits, opinions, personalities, and ambitions. Healthy relationships allow room for these differences. Controlling individuals, however, often expect everyone to think the same way, make the same decisions, and share the same priorities. Anyone who disagrees is viewed as disloyal, immature, or disrespectful. As a result, friendships become exhausting because people feel they must constantly meet impossible expectations. Control also appears through emotional manipulation. Some individuals use guilt, silence, or passive-aggressive behavior to influence others without openly expressing what they want. Instead of communicating honestly, they expect friends to read their minds. When expectations are not met, disappointment turns into resentment. The friendship slowly becomes filled with tension because neither person feels completely safe expressing themselves. Ironically, the more someone tries to control relationships, the less influence they actually have. Real influence comes from trust, respect, and mutual appreciation. People willingly spend time with those who make them feel accepted, not with those who make them feel monitored. Freedom strengthens loyalty far more effectively than pressure ever could. History repeatedly demonstrates that lasting alliances were never sustained through domination alone. The most respected leaders understood that loyalty cannot be forced. It must be earned by creating an environment where people feel valued rather than controlled. The same principle applies to friendship. Every attempt to dominate another person's choices slowly weakens the bond that could have become genuine. Many people who struggle to keep friends never realize that their need for control is actually a shield protecting deep insecurity. They fear losing people, so they tighten their grip. They fear rejection, so they try to direct every situation. Yet relationships are like sand in an open hand. Hold them gently and they remain. Squeeze too tightly and they slip through your fingers, leaving behind only silence, distance, unanswered messages, and the quiet realization that control can never replace genuine trust. One of the most misunderstood personality traits is extreme self-reliance. Society often praises people who claim they need no one. They are admired for their independence, their ability to solve problems alone, and their refusal to depend on others. At first glance, this appears to be a sign of strength. But there is a fine line between healthy independence and complete emotional isolation. When a person begins to believe that they never need support, advice, or companionship, they unknowingly close the door to genuine friendship. Many people adopt this mindset after experiencing disappointment. Perhaps they trusted the wrong person, were abandoned during difficult times, or discovered that someone they depended on betrayed them. Those painful experiences leave a lasting mark. Instead of risking another emotional wound, they convince themselves that relying on others is dangerous. They begin repeating phrases like, "I can handle everything myself," or "I don't need anyone." These words may sound powerful, but they often hide unresolved pain rather than true confidence. Human beings are naturally social creatures. Throughout history, survival depended on cooperation. Families, communities, and trusted allies helped one another overcome challenges that no individual could face alone. Even today, emotional support plays a vital role in mental strength, resilience, and personal growth. Rejecting every opportunity to connect with others goes against one of the most fundamental aspects of human nature. People who are extremely self-reliant often refuse help even when they genuinely need it. They see accepting assistance as a sign of weakness. Whether they are struggling with work, personal problems, or emotional stress, they insist on carrying every burden alone. While this may earn admiration for their determination, it also prevents others from feeling useful or valued in the relationship. Friendship grows through mutual support. When one person never allows the other to contribute, the bond remains shallow. Another hidden consequence of extreme self-reliance is emotional exhaustion. Carrying every responsibility without sharing thoughts or feelings slowly drains a person's energy. They may appear calm on the outside while silently battling anxiety, loneliness, or frustration. Because they rarely express these emotions, people around them assume everything is fine. No one realizes they are struggling because they have become experts at hiding it. This personality trait also creates an image of emotional unavailability. Friends naturally want to celebrate victories together. discuss challenges, and offer encouragement during difficult moments. When someone consistently avoids these opportunities, others begin to believe that closeness is not welcome. They stop asking personal questions. They stop offering support. Eventually, communication becomes limited to casual conversations that never develop into lasting friendships. Pride often reinforces this behavior. Some individuals believe they must prove they are completely capable of handling life on their own. They fear that accepting help will damage their image of strength. Ironically, the opposite is usually true. People often respect those who are honest enough to admit when they need advice or encouragement. Vulnerability, when expressed wisely, creates trust rather than weakness. It allows others to feel connected because they recognize the shared reality that everyone faces struggles. Extreme self-reliance can also prevent personal growth. Every individual has blind spots, limitations, and areas where another perspective can provide valuable insight. Refusing to listen to others means missing opportunities to learn. The most successful thinkers, leaders, and innovators throughout history surrounded themselves with trusted advisors and loyal companions. They understood that wisdom grows through discussion, not isolation. Many lonely people believe that if someone truly cared, they would continue reaching out no matter how distant they became. In reality, friendships require participation from both sides. If one person always declines invitations, never initiates conversations, and rarely shares anything personal, others eventually assume their presence is unnecessary. This is not because people stop caring. It is because they begin respecting what they believe is a desire to be left alone. There is an important difference between enjoying solitude and living in isolation. Solitude can be healthy. It provides time for reflection, creativity, and self-improvement. Isolation, however, slowly disconnects a person from meaningful human experiences. Days become quieter, conversations become shorter, and opportunities for genuine connection disappear without notice. The individual may convince themselves that they chose this life, while deep inside they quietly wonder why no one seems to stay, why every relationship feels temporary, and why independence without connection gradually transforms into a loneliness that success, discipline, and personal achievement can never fully replace. There is a powerful force that silently pushes people away without a single argument, and that force is constant negativity mixed with hidden bitterness. Most people do not wake up intending to become negative. It develops slowly through disappointment, failure, betrayal, and repeated emotional pain. Over time, these experiences shape the way a person sees the world. They begin expecting the worst from every situation, doubting every opportunity, and questioning every act of kindness. What started as self-protection gradually becomes a permanent way of thinking, and the people around them begin to feel the weight of that mindset. Human beings naturally absorb the emotional energy of those they spend time with. A conversation filled with hope, curiosity, and encouragement leaves people feeling inspired. A conversation filled with complaints, criticism, and pessimism often leaves them feeling emotionally drained. This is why negativity has such a powerful effect on friendships. People may genuinely care about someone, but if every interaction feels heavy, exhausting, or hopeless, they eventually begin creating distance to protect their own emotional well-being. Constant negativity does not always appear as obvious complaining. Sometimes it hides behind sarcasm, cynicism, or the belief that realism requires expecting the worst. A person may dismiss every good idea, predict failure before any effort is made, or find flaws in every success. They convince themselves that they are simply being honest, but others experience them as discouraging and emotionally difficult to be around. Optimism is not about ignoring reality. It is about believing that improvement is possible despite challenges. Negativity, on the other hand, quietly convinces people that nothing will ever change. Hidden bitterness makes this personality trait even more destructive. Bitterness grows when someone holds on to past pain instead of learning from it. They replay old betrayals, remember every insult, and compare every new relationship to previous disappointments. Instead of meeting people with curiosity, they meet them with suspicion. Instead of giving trust the chance to grow, they expect history to repeat itself. As a result, innocent people often pay the price for wounds they never caused. Bitterness also changes the way a person interprets ordinary situations. A delayed message becomes proof of rejection. A forgotten invitation becomes evidence that no one cares. Constructive criticism becomes a personal attack. Small misunderstandings become major betrayals. The mind begins searching for confirmation that people cannot be trusted, and because it is focused only on negative evidence, it often ignores acts of kindness that contradict those beliefs. Another dangerous habit is constantly comparing one's life with the lives of others. A bitter person may struggle to celebrate another person's success because it reminds them of their own disappointments. Instead of feeling inspired, they feel resentment. Instead of offering sincere congratulations, they search for reasons to diminish the achievement. Friends quickly notice this pattern. They realize that sharing good news results in jealousy, criticism, or uncomfortable silence rather than genuine happiness. Negativity also affects communication. Every discussion becomes centered on problems rather than possibilities. Every opportunity is met with reasons why it will fail. Every solution is followed by another complaint. Over time, people stop sharing exciting ideas because they expect them to be dismissed. Conversations become predictable, lacking the enthusiasm and emotional balance that healthy friendships require. Life will always include setbacks, failures, and moments of disappointment. The difference lies in how people respond to those experiences. Some use pain as a lesson that strengthens their character. Others allow pain to define their entire identity. When bitterness becomes part of someone's personality, it influences every conversation, every decision, and every relationship. Without realizing it, they begin carrying yesterday's wounds into today's friendships. The irony is that many negative people are not trying to push others away. They often long for deep connection and loyal companionship. They simply do not realize that their constant focus on disappointment creates an atmosphere where hope struggles to survive. People naturally move toward those who inspire peace, encouragement, and emotional safety. When every interaction feels dominated by criticism, resentment, or hopelessness, friendships slowly lose their warmth, trust begins to fade, invitations become less frequent, conversations grow shorter, familiar faces drift away, and the loneliness that follows feels confusing because the real cause has been quietly growing within for years. One of the greatest obstacles to building lasting friendships is the fear of vulnerability and rejection. It is a fear that rarely announces itself openly. Instead, it hides behind confidence, silence, humor, or emotional distance. Many people appear calm and composed on the outside while secretly worrying that if others truly knew who they were, they would be judged, rejected, or abandoned. To avoid that possibility, they reveal only carefully selected parts of themselves, believing that emotional safety is more important than emotional connection. This fear often begins long before adulthood. A child who is constantly criticized, ignored, or made to feel that their emotions are unimportant may learn to hide their true feelings. Someone who has experienced betrayal by close friends or painful rejection in relationships may decide that opening up is simply too risky. They create an invisible shield around their emotions, promising themselves that no one will ever have the chance to hurt them again. While this strategy may reduce emotional pain in the short term, it also prevents genuine closeness from ever developing. Every meaningful friendship requires a certain level of vulnerability. It means admitting uncertainty, sharing personal experiences, expressing appreciation, asking for help, or simply allowing another person to see your authentic thoughts. These moments create trust because they communicate honesty. They show that both people are willing to move beyond superficial conversations and build something deeper. Without vulnerability, relationships remain polite but distant, friendly but temporary. Many people mistakenly believe that vulnerability is a sign of weakness. They imagine that revealing emotions makes them less respected or less powerful. In reality, controlled vulnerability often creates the opposite effect. It demonstrates confidence because it shows that a person is secure enough to be authentic. Pretending to be perfect requires constant effort. Being genuine requires courage. People are naturally drawn to authenticity because it gives them permission to be authentic as well. Fear of rejection also changes the way people behave before a friendship even has the chance to grow. Some avoid starting conversations because they assume they will be ignored. Others decline invitations because they worry they will not fit in. Some remain silent in group settings, convinced that their opinions are unimportant. They interpret uncertainty as rejection before any rejection has actually occurred. Their imagination becomes more powerful than reality, creating barriers that exist only in their own minds. Another common behavior is emotional testing. Instead of openly expressing needs or feelings, they expect others to prove their loyalty through impossible standards. They wait to see who reaches out first, who remembers every detail, or who continues making an effort despite receiving very little in return. When people fail these unspoken tests, they are quietly removed from consideration as potential friends. The tragedy is that those individuals often never knew they were being tested at all. The fear of vulnerability can also create perfectionism. Some believe they must become more successful, more confident, more attractive, or more accomplished before they deserve meaningful friendships. They postpone connection until they reach an imaginary version of perfection that never arrives. Meanwhile, life continues, opportunities pass, and relationships that could have grown naturally are never given the chance to begin. Trust is never built all at once. It grows through countless small moments of honesty, a sincere conversation, an admission of uncertainty, a shared challenge, or a simple expression of gratitude gradually forms the foundation of lasting friendship. Those who refuse every opportunity to be emotionally open unintentionally stop this process before it can even begin. They remain surrounded by acquaintances while longing for the deeper connections they secretly desire. The paradox is that avoiding vulnerability does not eliminate rejection. It often guarantees loneliness instead. People cannot form meaningful bonds with someone they never truly know. They may admire competence, intelligence, or independence, but lasting friendship depends on emotional connection. The strongest relationships are rarely formed because two people appeared flawless. They are formed because both individuals were willing to lower their defenses, replace fear with honesty, allow trust to develop one conversation at a time, reveal the parts of themselves they once believed had to remain hidden, and create a space where acceptance becomes possible before certainty ever exists. The final personality trait that often separates people from lasting friendships is a lack of empathy and social awareness. This does not necessarily mean someone is cruel or intentionally disrespectful. In many cases, they simply fail to recognize how their words, actions, and behavior affect the people around them. Friendship is built on understanding, consideration, and emotional balance. When a person consistently overlooks the feelings of others, even without bad intentions, meaningful relationships slowly begin to disappear. Empathy is the ability to understand another person's emotions, perspectives, and experiences. It is the quiet skill of noticing when someone is struggling, celebrating when someone succeeds, and offering support without being asked. Social awareness is closely connected to empathy. It allows people to read situations, recognize emotional signals, and respond in ways that strengthen trust rather than weaken it. Together, these qualities create the foundation of every healthy friendship. Many individuals believe that honesty alone is enough. They speak whatever comes to mind without considering the emotional impact of their words. They describe themselves as blunt, direct, or simply telling the truth. While honesty is valuable, honesty without empathy often feels like unnecessary criticism. A truthful statement delivered without kindness can damage a relationship just as quickly as a lie. People rarely remember every word that was spoken, but they remember how those words made them feel. A lack of empathy also appears in everyday conversations. Some people constantly redirect discussions back to themselves. Whenever a friend shares an achievement, they immediately begin talking about their own success. When someone explains a personal struggle, they interrupt with their own story instead of listening. Over time, conversations become one-sided. Others begin feeling unheard and emotionally invisible. Friendship requires balance, where both people feel respected and valued. Another common sign is the inability to recognize emotional cues. A friend may seem quieter than usual, less energetic, or noticeably stressed. An empathetic person notices these changes and gently asks if everything is okay. Someone lacking social awareness may ignore these signals completely or dismiss them as unimportant. Opportunities to strengthen the relationship are missed simply because emotional needs go unnoticed. Respect for boundaries is another important aspect of empathy. Every individual has different comfort levels, personal values, and emotional limits. Socially aware people recognize these differences and adjust their behavior accordingly. Those who lack this awareness may repeatedly make inappropriate jokes, ask overly personal questions, or pressure others into situations that create discomfort. Even if these actions are not intended to cause harm, they gradually reduce trust. Empathy also means celebrating the happiness of others without comparison or jealousy. True friends genuinely enjoy seeing each other succeed. A person with limited empathy may struggle to show excitement when someone else achieves an important goal. They may quickly change the subject, minimize the accomplishment, or compare it to their own experiences. These reactions communicate a lack of emotional generosity, making others hesitant to share meaningful moments in the future. Social awareness influences more than words. It affects body language, tone of voice, timing, and attention. Looking at a phone while someone is speaking, interrupting repeatedly, arriving late without concern, or forgetting important events can send a message that the relationship is not valued. These behaviors may seem small individually, but together they create a pattern that slowly weakens friendships. Many people who struggle socially are not lacking intelligence. In fact, some are highly educated and exceptionally skilled in their careers. Yet emotional intelligence is different from academic knowledge. It requires observing people, understanding emotions, adapting communication, and recognizing that every interaction leaves an emotional impression. The strongest friendships are rarely built through impressive achievements alone. They are built through consistent acts of understanding, respect, and genuine care. History shows that the most influential individuals were often remembered not only for their ideas, but also for their ability to understand people. They knew that influence begins with listening before speaking, observing before judging, and understanding before expecting to be understood. The same principle shapes every meaningful friendship. When empathy is absent, conversations lose warmth, trust becomes fragile, misunderstandings become frequent, emotional distance quietly grows, familiar faces become strangers, and the opportunity to build deep, loyal, and lasting friendship slowly disappears beneath countless moments where another person's feelings were never truly seen or understood.